My group is responsible for chapter 4 discourse, and I am Nguyễn Thị Tiền, and I work with Nguyễn Thị Hồng Ngọc. And
Excuse me, I heard some noise from your side. Please turn off the fan or something to get all the noise around you.
yes,
Okay, that's better now.
so yeah, as well with the contents of our presentation today, we will run through 7 main points. Um, what is number one? What is the discourse analysis and differentiate between speaking and writing? Number three, we will mention some approach to discourse analysis. Number four is grammar and discourse, spoken and written differences, lexical pattern in spoken and covers linguistic variation in discourse, and the last one is implication. So I will responsible for first three main points. Now, first on, we come to definition. So, what is analysis? You see, discourse analysis is the language. Is the analysis of language in its social context, and lies conceptual discourse of language functioning is one of many contexts that together make up cultures. And in daily communication, it includes a variety of discourse happening at home, at workplace, or the intuition. For example, in the morning, we can reach the member is our home, or in workplace, we can discuss a plans, or come to the cafeteria, we can order the drink or plan the food. And number two, how is discourse analysis studies? Um, discourse analysis study text spoken or written, long or short, and the relationship between the text and the context. Discourse analysts also focus on the real text utterance. Utterances mean sequence of words written or spoken in specific contexts, while grammarians and philosophers language focus on invented constructed example sentences mean the sequence of words conforming or not or to the rules of grammar for the construction of phrases or clauses. Discourse analysts focus on the questions when analyzing the text. Who are the participants in the discourse? How do we know what writer and speaker mean? And some analysis they will distinguish the difference between written and spoken and written. They based on two terms, structural or grammatical and lexical features. In terms of structural features, we have two groups of author or linguistics. The first one is Vitti in 1983. He considered written language. He will focus on the study of isolated sentences, highly structured and organized. And spoken language just formless and ungrammatical. However, Halliday together with Ashwin of McCarthy, they consider spoken language is a consistent and describable structures, and the language patterning is the same as written English. And they analyze the written translation of a conversation with their own pauses, repetition, and constant. And he contends that an author first draft, which it washing out and rewriting. So they can conclude that spoken language exhibits a highly elaborate organization, and it's grammatically intricate. In the spoken language is also very organized structures, and they will illustrates the figure 4.1. This is when we distinguish the difference between speaking and writing based on the scale and dimensions. So when we look at the figure, we can recognize that at the one end of your left hand is a most informal congress and interaction. For example, it's a casual conversation. Cozy chats with a close friends is a spoken interaction with a turn taking and constantly shifting topics, overlap speech, and frequent interruption. And we call formal spoken English a casual conversation. At the order of the scale in your right hand is the most formal and abstract interaction, and we can see the academic articles which are planned, collected, and refreshed many times. In the middle of the scales are the informal written text, and you can see the email, the letter to friends, and formal spoken text like the civic encounter, top interview, or the public speech. In terms of the lexical, we can see uh, academic text is written. Written is the text and formal text, and impersonal pronoun and passives is employed, and is are not employed with the pronouns you, and the action of affective or emotional vocabularies. While chatting with a friend is usually highly involved activity, and we use a lot of pronoun I and use, and a lot of affective vocabulary too. So from these two different, we can draw conclusion that spoken and written discourse usually have different lexical densities. Each text is a ways of occurrence of lexical items, so we can see contains words. And spoken discourse is typically have a far lower lexical density than the written discourse. It's lack contents. And the third main force is some approach to discourse analysis. And we can look at figure 4.2. Totally there are five approaches. And in our presentation, we will focus on sociology, conversational analysis, social linguistics, ethnography, and variation theories. And Miss Ngọc will continue with the linguistics. So we come to conversation analysis. So it's a concern with detailed organizations of everyday interaction. It's a this analysis focus on conversation because it offers a particularly appropriate and accessible resource of sociological inquiries. And there are three key questions for conversation analysts. How do people take turn in conversation? So we mentioned the turn. And how do people often grow conversations? How people learn the new topics, how the conversation progress. So we mentioned the turn. Turn is each occasion that a speaker speak, and a turn and when the other speaker take a turn, and analyze it. Want to discover what are the rules for whole speak plan, and daily hurries any overlaps or interruption, and only minimal silence between the turns. Even if this happens, two speakers they will have their own strategies to know the selection of their turns. And the language provides us with way of getting the next turn. For example, if I may ask a question or panel, can I speak? Set up organic sex, or I can get the work in. There are also the way not taking the turn, even without once a chance. For example, say, yeah, sure, right. So it just indicates that the listener is still following the speaker and wish him or her to continue. So next to the tone we have the adjacency pair. So adjacency pair is a pair of tones that mentally affect one another, and it consists of two parts, a first pair and the second pair. So we can look at example. When I say good morning, so B will respond hi good morning. B will I say congratulations. B will thanks. So it's a greeting will get a greeting in return and congratulations will thank you. We call these refer sequencing. However, in the other situation, uh, for example, hi, how is it going? Before that, so we call this refer sequence. I mean, the problem for the speaker, like we refill invitation on offer, and sometimes it is necessary to make a different sequence. And the other time is the very hard job for the speaker is to make a sequence to sell the speaker face. Besides adjacency pair, we also have solidarity routines and converging pairs. You can look at two examples. So we come to the next part. Social linguistic approaches, I will focus on ethnographies and variation theories. Ethnography theories, when I look up in Cambridge Dictionary, what is it? It's the scientific descriptions of culture of a society by someone who lives in it. One of the aims of ethnography is to contribute to an understanding of human race. And they are concerned with the situation and usage, the pattern and function of speaking is an activity in its own right, according to him, 1944. And also developed a schema for analyzing the content that we has the speech event. So speech event is considered a interaction, such as a conversation at the parties or ordering a meal, etc. And any speech event comprises several components, and they are listed in the table 4.2. This is a handbridge to become now a speaking grid, and you can look at each letter for short. SE setting scene where and when, how, in what occasion. The participant, who is the speaker, the readers, and what are the purpose, the objectives. A is sequence, the message content. K, key, tone, manner. Instrumentality, the channel, verbal or non-verbal. And norms of interaction, interrotation. In specific property of text speaking interrotation norm within the cultural belief system. And G in the genres and textual categories. And variation theories. This is the description of structures of spoken negatives, which has been very influential in language teaching. And they also suggest the overall structures of a fully formed narrative of personal experience is abstract summary stories, orientation, playtime situation, communication, temporal sequence of event, uh, evaluation, narrator attitude toward the narratives, resolution, retrochronic approach to rises, called the forms about the negatives as a whole. And Miss Ngọc will continue with linguistic approaches.
Thank you. I would like to continue with the next part, the linguistic approaches. First, I would like to mention about the Birmingham School. In the early 1970s, Sinclair and Swarthart tape recorded some mother tongue which occurred in traditional and teacher-fronted classes. Here's the model. We have T present for teacher and P present for people who speak in class. The teacher say, now then, I've got something here. Two hands up. What's that? What is it? And the people say, saw. Is a saw. Yes, this is a saw. What do we do with a saw? Cut wood. Yes, you're shouting out loud. What do we do with a saw? Marble it. Cut wood. We cut wood. It comes to our notice that the word now then is a discourse marker that indicates a boundary, the start of something new. And the people aren't allowed just to shout the answer. The teacher nominates who speak next. The teacher repeats and evaluates the good answer to emphasize it. It's a sword. Yes, this is a sword. And there are three parts in the discourse: the question, the response, and the feedback or the follow-up. Illustrate also show how the discourse is organized at different levels. The top level, now then, is called the transaction. The next level demonstrated in the question, answer, feedback combinations. These are called exchanges. Each of these exchanges is called a move. And finally, the minor actions, such as asking people to speak or to raise their hands up, these are called acts. And I would like to move on to according to this, I would like to move on to the rank scale, which is called the IRF model. You can see here the model. In the teacher-fronted class, we can easily observe these three moves. The move here. The first one, the teacher would say, how do we use a thermometer, Jenny? It is the initiating. And the pupil say, put it in your mouth. It is a responding, and teacher would say it again to confirm. You put it in your mouth. It is a follow-up. Thanks to Sinclair and Courthard research, a new awareness of classroom language was brought to language teachers in 1970s and 1980s. This also boosts the move to the communicative language teaching. The next one, the systematic functional linguistics. The SFL and the critical discourse analysis can be considered members of family of linguistic approaches. They are socially oriented, especially when it comes to describing the relationship of language, text, and social life. It has a particular applicability to the analysis of spoken discourse. And the functional description seek to explain the nature and organization of language according to what it has to do. For example, excuse me, do you know the way to somewhere? This serves the purpose of asking for directions. And the systemic functional linguistics help explain the internal organization of language in terms of functions that it has evolved to serve. The next part will be about the critical discourse analysis. The genres in critical discourse analysis are seen as both social and textual categories and no longer as fixed and immutable, but as dynamic and changing. The genres, therefore, not only arise out of the social context, but in fact, they shape the social context. The next part would be about the grammar and discourse, the spoken and written differences. In written discourses, writer can rely on the readers to proceed the text in a logical and common sense way. Unlike the written discourse, spoken discourse is usually tied to the immediate context. This is often reflected in very short and reduced turns in informal conversation. Now, please look at the example here. When it comes to the statement in speaking discourse subjects, are often missed. Instead of saying it turned out well in the end, we can just say turned out well in the end, and the listeners still understand. Or when we say about accountable nouns, they may occur without any articles, and of course, without the subject also. Instead of saying it's a nice restaurant, we can say nice restaurant. Some structures which are common in writing may be very rare in everyday conversation. Please look at the example here. We can see that the gerund here, this type of in clause, sitting down for a joint meal, is very rare in informal conversation. We don't use them often. And a grammar that fails to make the spoken written distinction may be incomplete or even misleading. The next part will be about the lexical patterns in spoken language. When it comes to spoken language, speakers make their lexical choices and listeners receive and interpret them. Lexical meaning emerges from context rather than being entirely preordained. Agreed meaning can be signaled and confirmed by repetition and relexicalization. The use of synonyms or acronyms. Sometimes more than one pair of lexical items involved, and both repetition and lexicalization in the same stretch of talk. I have an example here. Any can figure out which one is repetition and which one is relexicalization? Anyone in our class? Can you please raise your voice? Can you recognize which one is repetition and which one is relexicalization? It means the synonyms or acronyms.
I think beautiful, the word beautiful is repeated.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and lovely and gorgeous are the relexicalization.
Is it the synonym or acronym?
Synonym.
Thank you very much. Miss Downright. And I would like to move on to the next one, the conclusion. Repetition and lexicalization are part of the speaking skill, and in the case of relexicalization, the ability to retrieve synonyms and antonyms quickly, and it presents a considerable challenge to the second language learners. And the next one, corpus, linguistics and variation in discourse. Corpus linguistics believe that external evidence looking at language use is a better source for description than internal evidence or native speaker intuition. Broadly, corpus linguistics may be performed in two ways, quantitative and qualitative. The data that they collected from the quantitative approach will help them. The data collected from qualitative approach are analyzed to find out the frequency of occurrence of words, phrases, collocations, or structures. These statistics are used to produce dictionaries, grammars, and so on. The results of corpus-based discourse analysis will feed through the teaching of speaking and writing in language pedagogy. And the very last part, and also the very important part in this chapter, the implication for pedagogy. The first point here would be understanding how language is structured in different contexts will enable language practitioners to more preciously describe in syllabuses and material the different genre of language. The discourse analysis can help teachers explain the underlying features of different types of writing to their students, such as how the academic paper would be different from a business letter. Models of analysis such as the IRF, as I mentioned before, it is the initiating, responding, and follow-up, may raise awareness of the nature of teacher-learner interaction. And the next one, insights from discourse analysis help teachers evaluate their own learners' performance in class tasks, such as pair work and group work in terms of its proximity to or distance from the real-world discourse. Therefore, they can design better tasks. Conversation analysis offers the possibility of systematic teaching of features such as the language of openings and closings, discourse markers, and common adjacency pairs. And the very last point here is the products of description, which come from the discourse analysis, can help to form pedagogical grammars and learners' dictionaries, which are more sensitive to context and different demands that speech and writing place on the learners. Thank you. That's it for our presentation.